Hello everybody, and welcome back to the Shadow of the Colossus playthrough. So, Mono is still dead, basically. And another Colossi has been defeated. And this time, we're about to head on to a rather interesting Colossi, to say the least. It's quite a small Colossus, definitely. And I think from what I can gather, it's one of the ones that's not necessarily the most popular in the grand scheme of things. And I think that's just because it's a very kind of difficult one to properly get to and deal with. There's a very sort of quick way to defeat this Colossi, but it is rather risky, let's put it that way. There's also a lot of kind of faff going on with its actual name, but I think I have sussed it, so we will go with that. I have to say, I am very, very glad that this is a much shorter part than last time, but then I know exactly what's coming after this one. And that's just going to make me cry. Because I go from long part to delightfully short parts to a monster again. Because I just don't have any luck, it seems, with these sorts of things. That said, I did have fun with this particular Colossi, less so with the one that's going to come up in the next part. That one... yeah, that one will not be getting the thumbs up from me, let's put it that way. This one, however, pretty okay. But yes, I think we have to go through into this dark tunnel, which is sort of called a forest. It's not really a forest, but then we've got this really gorgeous bit. I mean, there's this sort of terrifying narrow pathway, but obviously aggro can deal with this no problem whatsoever. But, I mean, just look at that waterfall. We have come very far in terms of video game graphics, I have to say. I mean, obviously anybody who knows me knows that I am not a major kind of graphics whore when it comes to video games. Like, love a good looking game, don't get me wrong, but pretty much I'm much more interested in the gameplay and the story, and the visuals of the thing don't necessarily matter quite so much. Unless it's like a really hideous art style in which I just hate looking at the damn thing, in which case it's, yeah, that just kills off any chance I had of playing anything. If it kind of, when I look at it, it makes me feel a bit sick. I'm trying to think of any games that have made me feel like that. There's definitely can't be many, because there certainly aren't any that are coming to mind right now. But I know for a fact that I have never gotten a game purely based on how good the graphics are, because otherwise I would have gotten things like The Order 1881. I mean, that game looked stunning, but in terms of the gameplay, it just seemed really, really dull, and proved to sort of be so, and really short and have lots of walking, and it was just like, nah. This ain't working out. And I think it's sort of one of the issues that so many game developers have started to push towards these days, is that it's all about the graphics and how many particles they can get on screen, and there's less focus now on the gameplay side of things, which is definitely the most important bit of a game, obviously. But either way, here is our next Colossi. And yes, this is a Kuromori. The music that plays when you sort of first enter his lair is a closed-off city. Once he finally spots us, oh, nope, that is a completely different Colossi. When we enter his area, it is Black Blood that plays. Once he becomes aware of our presence, we get Liberated Guardian. And then when we can finally stab the Blighter, there's a despair-filled farewell. And it's all quite epic. One issue I found with this is that it is quite dark in this area. Which, particularly on my TV, it was really dark, so it was difficult to see. And you've got to kind of make your way quite far down, actually, in order to begin attacking it. Because the whole gist is that you've got to get Kuromori, as he's called, to notice you, and then once he's noticed you, you can then attack him. But actually getting to that point, a little bit challenging. Because also there's a whole thing of, you want to go somewhat high, because I think the higher you are, the longer you'll be able to freeze him in place, effectively. But it is a fun fight in the sense of he can actually hurt you because he has ranged projectiles. He will climb up the walls, and then you've got to hit the puffy legs. And that is basically how you fell the beast. And then the whole gist is that you're sort of meant to kind of safely run down the stairs and then peg it onto him to start stabbing him to death. But it's unlikely that you'll be able to uncycle this guy. There's a trophy that you get if you can, but it is easier said than done. And I mean, Kuromori as a name it's very interesting, because a lot of people get, I think, somewhat confused by that name. Because they look at it and just like, well, I know what Kuro means, and because Kuro means black. But then they get a little bit stuck on Mori, and from the looks of things, Mori is forest, so effectively his name translates to Black Forest, which may sound like it doesn't necessarily make sense, but then when you look at how Kuromori was first described to us by Dormin, it was, thy next foe is a tail trapped within a pale deep within the forest, a shadow that crawls on the walls. So it's a shadow found deep within the forest. And that's where you get the Black Forest that makes up Kuromori's name. And I find that just quite fascinating. It's also quite interesting to find out that Kuromori is the 3rd smallest Colossus in the game. And people have actually found a way to jump onto Kuromori's belly while he's climbing up. It's not recommended because not only is it very difficult to perform, but very glitchy, because if you hold on for too long, you can end up being launched miles into the air, being turned invisible while clipping, and it's just a bit of a disaster. I don't know whether that's mostly in the original, I don't know whether it's here or not, but it's not recommended. You're more likely to just want to jump down onto the blighter. It's also one of the 3 colossi that can't see the pillars of light that the fallen bodies emit. Obviously the first one was Barber, Kuromori is the 2nd, and then there is a 3rd that will come up later on. This is also the only fight where I think Wanda covers his face. I'm not sure whether I have fully seen it happen in this version yet, but basically whenever Kuromori spits out that sort of poisonous gas, Wanda sort of will cover his face, which is quite cool to see. And also the trees outside Kuromori's lair have the same texture as, or at least they did in the original, as some of the Colossus' skin, especially Barber's. Not sure whether it's quite so much the case here, but it's certainly interesting. I think that one more strike will do it. There we go. Kuromori is defeated. I'm beginning to feel bad for these guys.